Welcome to KW Real Estate News and Views for the week of September 8th. Got a lot of news to tell you about. The market data for August came in and some regulatory issues we've had in Alberta and Ontario. I'm going to get you started right now. First thing I mentioned was market numbers for August. They came in from Cornerstone, my local board. And as I've been saying really for the past 18, 19 months, market's super slow. So this August has continued that trend. August for 2025 was the slowest it's been in 11 years. We are down a whopping 21% on sales volume. Now, having said that, we've got a lot of listings on market. It's now more or less a neutral, or in some cases a buyer's market. And with that many listings on market, prices have taken a little bit of a hit. Going to start off with detached first. Detached came in, we're at $847, just under $847,000. That's down 2% month over month compared to July, and we're down 5% on the year. Now, that inventory I mentioned, we've got just over 3 months worth of inventory. That puts us into neutral or balanced market conditions. Now, moving on to semi-detached. Semi-detached is kind of a weird market segment. It's a tiny chunk of the market. We had 50 sales, 85 listings. That works out to roughly 1.8 months worth of inventory. So in the case of semis, we're still in a seller's market. Prices, however, just like with detached, we're down a little bit. We averaged $618,000 for the month of August. That's down 4% month over month. And again, like detached, down 5% on the year. How about townhouses? We have 4.7 months worth of inventory. So again, we're in balanced or neutral market territory. Closer in this case, though, towards actually being a buyer's market, but we're not quite there yet. Average price, we actually just dropped below 600 grand. Average came in at $594,000. But there's one thing that I wanted to mention about that, and this is pertinent to the whole conversation. Unlike semi-detached, where you've got it almost entirely freehold, the townhouse market is roughly 50% condo and 50% freehold. And if you look at the averages for the two, averages for freehold is closer to 700 grand, averages for condo is mid to low five. So there's quite a gap in those two property types, mostly because people don't want to pay the condo fees. Looking at it on a year-over-year basis, we're down 3%, and compared to July, we're down 2%. So again, this trend I've talked about with the market slowing down with some price reductions, kind of normal stuff for the summer, but compared to last year, last August as well, as I said, we're down. The last one I want to cover apartment-style condos. Now, if you've been following the news in Toronto, apartment condo scene, especially with new builds, is getting absolutely beat up. Not so much like that here in Kitchener-Waterloo region, but we have seen some impacts as well in our apartment style condo pricing. I think a lot of this has got to do with the fact that the government has rolled back a lot of the student admissions into the country. Foreign students, we're not getting as many. And I saw prices in apartment style condos, they really started taking a dive in April and May, and they've been up and down like a yo-yo, like big swings, 30, 40, 50 grand. And this was exactly the same as what we saw for the August numbers for apartment style condos. Right now, we're sitting at $433,000. Month over month, that's actually up 4%. So we're seeing swings in pricing in the shorter term. On the year over year, though, apartment style condos are down 6%. Now, inventory levels, I mentioned those as well. We've got almost 8 months worth of inventory. So absolutely, if you're a buyer and you're looking at that style of property, it's definitely a buyer's market. And there's some opportunity there if you feel like getting a toe wet. Now, that's it for our monthly data. I should give you a little forecast about what I think is going to happen in the fall market. Now, typically in the fall market, it's our second busy time of the year. We'll see an uptick in pricing, we'll see an uptick in listings, and we'll see an uptick in sales. I expect we're going to see those things, with the exception of any big spikes in pricing. I don't see that happening. I think we could see an uptick a little bit in pricing compared to where we were in August, but I don't think it's going to be anything massive. I also don't think we're going to see a huge spike in sales either, just because the market has been slow for months and months on end now, and that's kind of become a trend. So if it picks up, it's going to pick up a little bit. Prices might come up a little bit, but I wouldn't say anything more than that. If you're looking for value though, this is what's important. And this is true any time of the year. Nobody wants to be selling a house in late December, coming into, Christmas and New Year's. People just don't want to do it. If you're looking for deals, this is when you want to strike, especially if the weather turns poor, late November, early December. If we get a crappy cold winter, that's going to keep buyers away. And this is where you're going to see some desperation for sellers. So that would be my advice. If you're looking for deals, maybe wait into the later fall and you can snap something up at a discount. Anyways, that's all I got for you as far as, market numbers and what I think is going to happen this fall. The other two things I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about two big stories. I'll get to the first one. It's Alberta. And Alberta's regulator, they caught 3 realtors. I'm not sure how. These realtors were running a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme, and they got caught. And one of them has already had a disciplinary hearing, and the motive for the move for the regulator there in Alberta is that this guy gets his license ripped up. The other 2 that are involved in the shenanigans, they're coming up for a disciplinary review as well. And I would expect that they're probably going to be pushing for these guys to lose their licenses. I certainly think for egregious things like this, yes, you shouldn't be in the business if you're up to, shady criminal activity. And we had kind of a similar story happening here in the province in Ontario. And our local board, TREB, the Toronto Real Estate Board, I'm a member of that as well. Ontario Real Estate Association and a whole bunch of the smaller real estate boards have put out a letter asking RECO, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, they're our provincial regulator. They want that under the control of the provincial ombudsman. And this is a big deal because I'm going to tell you what happened. A company called Ipro Realty, 17 branches in Southern Ontario. Oh, they somehow walked away with, at first it was $12 million from the trust accounts for deposits for people buying and selling, and also the realtors' wages. So we're talking 2,400 agents who may not get paid now, plus of course the public, who knows whether they're going to get their deposit money, are these deals going to close? It's a bunch of stuff. And what had originally happened with RECO's registrar, they investigated Ipro like 4 or 5 months ago. And for some reason, the registrar, he's the guy in charge of your license, he didn't charge these guys. Like under RECO, there's provincial law where you can actually be charged. And they didn't bring charges against these 2 guys. Anyways, long story short, the RECO board got wind of this and they fired the registrar, as I think they should have. This doesn't really bring, trust in real estate to the public if we all look shady. So this is why, my local board, AREA, TREB, et cetera, is asking for ombudsman control, because there's a thousand other quasi-government agencies in the province that are all underneath the control of an ombudsman, the oversight. And we're asking for that as well so that we can get shady people out of the industry. Locally, this isn't the first time this has happened. I've been in this business now over a decade. I remember a few years ago, there was a mega agent. He swindled this lady out of selling her house to him for way under market value. He got caught. He's coming up on discipline for that. And he did another scammy deal where one of his family members had submitted an offer, and it was underneath the highest offer was, $10K more or something like that. He goes and takes the family member's offer instead of taking the highest offer. So his seller lost out on $10,000 because of him. Anyways, long story short, this guy had to pay a fine, and that was it. He kept his license. Everybody I've talked to in the business about that deal and about this current one that I just told you about with Ipro, we're all of the belief that RECO needs to actually enforce the laws that are in place on the books right now. And if that requires us to have an ombudsman, oversight over RECO, I think this is a long overdue move. The public needs to have trust in realty. They need to have trust in people in my profession. I can tell you this, everybody I know in the industry, we're hardworking, honest, good people, and everybody I know wants to do a good job for people. So when we've got these bad apples, RECO's got to get rid of them. So let's hope the government does what they're going to do. I've got some hope. The last thing I should have mentioned, this is a very big deal because the OPP is now involved in this Ipro fiasco. Maybe as they should be. Let's get the cops involved and do this right. Anyways, that's all I got for you this week. That's news and views for Kitchener-Waterloo real estate. And of course, I talked about the market numbers as well. I'll hit you up with another episode next week. Thanks so much for watching and have yourself a fantastic day.